Hey everyone, welcome to our channel. Today we're going to talk about one of the most anticipated games of Week 5 of college football. We have here a battle of giants from the SEC that could define the direction of the most competitive conference in the country. Alabama, ranked 17th, is going to face Georgia, which sits at 5th in the rankings. And man, this game promises a lot. For those who don't know this rivalry, we're talking about two historic programs that together have over 20 national titles. Georgia is seeking their third national championship since 1980, while Alabama, despite having a lower ranking this year, remains that team nobody wants to face in the playoffs. SEC East versus SEC West always generates epic games, and this one will be no different. Let's start by remembering what happened last season. Alabama dominated Georgia 41-34, playing at home, and after that victory, they managed to reach first place in the app rankings. But look at these impressive numbers. In the last 10 head-to-head matchups, Alabama has completely dominated. Georgia has a record of just 1 win and 6 losses against Alabama since 2017, while against all other teams, they have 99 wins and only 8 losses. This shows how much Alabama has been a true nightmare for Georgia. And it's not just about numbers, folks. Psychologically, Alabama has been living in Georgia players' heads. How many times have we seen Georgia dominate for 3 quarters, and in the decisive moment, Alabama comes up with that play that decides everything? It's as if there's a curse. Nick Saban may have left, but the winning DNA of the program remains there, now under Kalen DeBoer's command. Georgia's last loss playing at home was back in 2019 against South Carolina. So they're practically unbeatable when playing between the famous hedges of their stadium. But against Alabama, it seems like something is always missing. Now, what has changed this season for Georgia to finally overcome Alabama? The big difference is in the skill positions. Last season, Georgia had many problems with injuries and suspensions at receiver. They got to the point of giving 11 targets to Aaron Smith in the game against Georgia Tech, which shows how desperate they were. This year is completely different. Kobe Young returned and they brought in Zachariah Branch from USC. These guys are fast and give many more offensive options for the team. But the change goes beyond individual talent, folks. Georgia's offensive scheme has evolved. They're varying formations more, using more pre-snap motion to confuse defenses, and mainly, they're better utilizing Gunnar Stockton's athletic talent. Unlike Carson Beck, who was more of a traditional pocket passer, Stockton adds that mobility dimension that can break well-structured defensive plays. Coach Kirby Smart and the entire defensive coaching staff are furious about what happened last year. Georgia started by giving 2 touchdowns as gifts to Alabama right at the beginning of the game. Of course, we have to give credit to offensive coordinator Kalen DeBoer and quarterback Jalen Milroe, who showed some plays that Georgia hadn't seen before. Georgia managed to react and almost turned the game around, but in the end, they let it slip away with that decisive play to Ryan Williams. Georgia's preparation for this game will be completely different. They know they were the better team for most of last year's game. They just didn't start well. And this will be crucial now, not giving Alabama an early advantage. Speaking of quarterbacks, we have to highlight Gunnar Stockton, who comes from a fantastic performance against Tennessee. He completed 74% of his passes, got 304 yards, 2 touchdown passes, and 1 more rushing. Coach Kirby Smart said he needed to see Stockton translate what he showed in practice to official games, and against Tennessee, he finally achieved that. Confidence is fundamental for Stockton. In the first games of the season, Georgia seemed to be hiding their offensive plays, but against Tennessee, they completely opened the playbook. The new receivers are essential for stretching the field vertically, which also opens space for the ground game. And here's some very interesting information. Alabama lost last year to mobile quarterbacks. Against Oklahoma, Jackson Arnold ran a lot. Against Vanderbilt, it was Diego Pavia who gave them trouble. Alabama's defense has discipline problems when they need to cover a quarterback who also runs. Gunnar Stockton isn't an exceptional athlete, but he's much more mobile than Carson Beck was. Georgia should exploit this until Alabama proves they can adjust. Speaking of Alabama's defensive problems, they're still adapting to the new system. With the Nick Saban departure, many assistant coaches also left, and this created a learning curve for both players and the new staff. The discipline that was Alabama's trademark under Saban is sometimes still lacking in this new era. This could be crucial in decisive moments of the game. Now, let's talk about Alabama's side. Ty Simpson had a complicated debut against Florida State, but has improved a lot since then. Against Florida State, he was making the right decisions, but a little late. That's why Florida State managed to deflect 5 passes. They didn't intercept, but disrupted several plays. Against Wisconsin, which has a decent defense, he was on time, which is a good sign of evolution. Alabama has an attack that prepares their speed players very well to gain yards after catching the pass. That's why timing is so important. Ty Simpson needs to be like a basketball point guard, Steve Nash or Jason Kidd, setting up Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams, and Isaiah Holton, who are athletes capable of turning 6 yards into a 60-yard touchdown. Kalen DeBoer and his coaching staff will find individual coverage opportunities in this game. They'll prepare Simpson for success, but he needs to be on time. Playing on the road, in hostile territory, against the defense with more NFL-level players, the windows of opportunity are smaller. On defense, Alabama has allowed only 14 points in the last 2 games, but those were against Wisconsin and ULM. Georgia is a completely different animal. It would depend a lot on how they play at the line of scrimmage. Georgia's offensive line had problems against Tennessee, especially on the right side, and Tennessee has a defensive line comparable to Alabama's. Alabama has had some injury problems on the defensive line, but their secondary has developed well. Last year around this time, it was somewhat inexperienced, and that's where Georgia managed to get back in the game. Everyone talks about this group's evolution, but now they'll have to prove it against Branch and Young. A factor we can't ignore is the environment. Sanford Stadium, known as Between the Hedges, is one of the most intimidating environments in college football. When 92,000 Georgians are screaming at the same time, it affects any visiting team, even Alabama, who's used to big moments. Georgia's crowd will be thirsty for this victory after years of frustrations against Alabama. And to close, here are the predictions. We expect a high-scoring game, somewhat similar to last year's and to the Tennessee game. It will be competitive, but Georgia playing at home makes a difference. The prediction is Georgia 37-31 Alabama or Georgia 30-27 Alabama. Both experts agree Georgia will get the revenge they so desperately want. But let's talk about the implications of this game for the rest of the season. The winner will have an enormous psychological advantage in the college football playoff rankings. Georgia needs this victory to validate their status as a national title contender, while Alabama needs to prove that even without Nick Saban, they remain a force to be respected. The game takes place on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. EST and will be broadcast nationally in the United States. For us here in Brazil, it's a unique opportunity to watch 2 of the most historic programs in college football in action. And you, what do you think? Will Georgia manage to break this negative streak against Alabama, or will the Crimson Tide continue dominating? Which player will be the X factor? Ty Simpson or Gunnar Stockton? And the running backs, how do they fit into this equation? Leave your opinion in the comments. I want to know your analysis. And go ahead and subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any college football analysis. See you in the next video, folks.